Good morning, everyone. I never thought when I started doing these live, just musings of my thoughts, how cathartic this would be for me, how empowered I would feel by it. Well, again, I never thought when I decided to make the theme of 2018 be cause a scene in 2018. I didn't even recognize it rhymed at the time, but I didn't, it felt like there was, I don't know, when I came up with that, I was talking to a friend, I'm like, I want to disturb stuff this year. I just want to, and I'm not being, I don't want to be belligerent. That's not my goal. So I'm not causing riots or anything. What I want to do is cause a scene, though. I want to get attention, bring attention. And because I step out of my comfort zone enough to take the platform, I give myself the right to do this. So, and people continue to watch the videos and retweet them, so I'm just going to keep going with that. So today's video is, I know some of you are flummoxed, just absolutely, oh my God, just taken aback by what Donald Trump said about shithole countries. And it's so funny because these same shithole countries, I'm in the process of creating a business, entrepreneurial business show for the Americas, which is North and South America, but specifically focused on entrepreneurs in Latin America. And this is a note that I wrote to someone. They were asking me about what I was doing, and they live in Brazil, I think, and they wanted to connect on LinkedIn. And I said, I'd love to connect because I'm actually planning to launch a show soon that focuses on improving the numbers of underrepresented and marginalized individuals entering and staying in tech by helping entrepreneurs in the Americas, specifically Latin America, build better businesses. And so I got a lot of questions when I decided to leave inclusion, focusing my attention on inclusion and diversity last year, because for people that was so successful. What you saw as success was me beating my head against the wall. Because outrage does not move the needle. Strategy does. Outrage is reactive. Strategy is proactive. And anybody who knows me knows that I was looking for a strategic way of doing this. I am one person. I am both member of an underrepresented community and marginalized community. And I only have so much bandwidth or interest in dealing with bullshit. That's just it. And so, speaking at conferences, getting people to, they're clapping. Everybody wants, yes, we believe in this, but then no one's putting resources behind it. Was infuriating me. I have a motto in life, and this is what I use to make most, excuse me, I'm, dealing with some issues here. And my motto is, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? You usually can't be both. If you're fighting for right, it's usually a fight, and I don't want to spend my life fighting. So I choose the happy side. So for me, when I say outrage is being right, and that just takes up a lot of energy. Being happy means me being strategic, and that is me focusing on helping people from underrepresented countries and marginalized countries build businesses that are able to compete on the levels that they need to be able to compete, to sit at the table with these same people that you are outraged by, and force these conversations. Because the way things stand, it's easy for them to dismiss us. They've been doing it since we've been here, since they brought us here. If you're of African descent, or if they invaded your country, you've been a non-factor. And you'll continue to be a non-factor with outrage. Outrage doesn't move anything. Outrage is only momentary. I mean, you think about it. Everybody was outraged about Take a Knee. I don't hear anything about that anymore. Everybody was outraged about the statues. Don't hear about that anymore. People are outraged about sexual harassment. That won't be on the rise in very long. The reason it's been on the still in the in the public view now is because it happened in Hollywood, and those individuals have the power. Plus, they have, it's award season, so it's a way for them to get on the platform. And as deplorable as these behaviors are, outrage is not going to change it. We need strategies. So, and it's funny to me, and I'm sure it's funny to many black people and women of color or people of color, how everybody's just outraged by this man's comments. If you didn't see signals of this before, and this may piss you off, you chose not to see it. And you chose not to see it because you were woefully ignorant to what racism looks like, or you've been numb to it because it's just normal. It's like boys will be boys. Oh, that's what they, I hear that all the time. They don't really mean that. Or it's something that you say. It is what it is. And it's time to own up to it. And to say that, to ask the question why these people from shithole countries are coming and we need to bring more people from Norway. It's funny because it was funny to me because 2 days ago when I was speaking to the students at the STEM school, I had the same conversation. I was like, immigration isn't, everybody thinks, oh, he's only messing with immigration of certain types of people. He's not concerned with not bringing anybody, closing all of our borders. Of course not. It's closing our borders to a certain type of people. And they are the most maligned, the most abused people in the world. And and that is the what's funny to me. It's like, how did you not know that? Why is there outrage? I mean, he's been a president for a year. So that's why I chose to, when I talked about inclusion and diversity on my show, Community Engineering Report, I specifically chose not to talk about politics and morals. And people are like, oh, that's just one-sided. No, that's how I chose to do my show. You can go and do your own show. Talk about politics and morals. Because politics and morals, to bring that into conversation, is reactive. What I talked about was strategies. Because businesses competing on a global scale cannot build products and services for a global market from one or two perspectives. That's just it, period. So I talked about ROI. And I like that I could talk about ROI because I'm one of the few underrepresented and marginalized people who has the knowledge to be able to have that conversation with somebody. And damn it, I'm going to use it. This goes back to a post I did a few days ago. Stop underestimating me. Stop underestimating people from marginalized communities. While you're sitting there maligning us, asking why we're coming, I want to equip them. I want to inspire them to build these businesses so when the privileged look up, they're like, where the hell did these people come from? And not only that, fuck. We have to change how we do business because they're here in such numbers that they demand it. They've used strategy to demand it. And so I'm going to come pull this back a bit and tell you what really got me excited was, and I've said this over and over again, if you have not seen, you need to watch Saving Capitalism on Netflix by Robert Reich. It so validated my level-headed strategic approach to this that I was just like smiling from ear to ear. So he mentions a document called the Powell Memo, or the Powell Memorandum. And I had never heard of it, but I totally did my research and I'm actually doing a presentation on it. This is one of my talks that I created for 2018. Because the Powell Memo was commissioned by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce back in 1970, because this was the end, or we've been through the Flower Children, we've been through civil rights movement, and the populace had turned their backs on business. They were starting to hold business accountable. Powell came up with very strategic. I'm going to pull this up because I want you to. Some of my notes that I wrote about that Powell Memo. That just blew my mind. That was just like, yep, this is. So, some lessons from the Powell Memo. And you really need to watch it for yourself. I mean, read it for yourself. In these things, these are the things that he outlined that the Chamber of Commerce need to do in order to shift public opinion about business, but not only that, for business to take a more prominent role in politics. And this is why this is what has led to business being in control of our politics. So people don't agree with me, and I commend, people who believe in every vote counts, because it does. You saw that in Alabama. But the reason it's so important now is because business has taken control of our government. And so let me read some of these things. There was he understood the understanding and willingness to apply unlimited resources to reaching their goal. Right here, he told them it's going to take a long time and you need to pour in money. And so I'm saying, what I'm telling this is I'm saying these are the strategies we can use to improve our technical communities and organizations, to improve the numbers of underrepresented and marginalized individuals, members in this community. And not only improve the numbers, but improve their experiences here. It does nothing to bring these individuals like myself into the community, and we have to fight every day for our place. The next one is he had an understanding of taking the long-term approach. The weight and power to persuade that he places on public speaking. He really talked about, what he was talking about was propaganda. And it's in the document. It documents this. Control of curriculum and conversations at college campuses. So he mentions that there were all these liberal professors and liberal organizations. So he proposed that the conservative political business sect at the time focused on putting in professors at universities, that they start doing their own research, that they create their own peer-reviewed journals, because they needed their voices out there. They needed to have the same equal voice as regular as what they call liberal professors out there. So these are the things he talked about. So they need to control, because he saw that, again, when we talk about youth, when I was talking about STEAM, when I've been talking about STEAM, it's the youth that are most vulnerable and pliable. So that's where he wanted to go. He wanted to go inside the colleges and start using this propaganda and this these professors and this very scripted conversations to in the school systems. He was talking about a coordinated effort on the national and local level. So he was saying that the Chamber of Commerce National had an advantage because they had local chapters, and so they could take the doctrines, we'll just call them doctrines, that were being communicated at the national level, and they had inroads into the local level. He said influence gained through academic research and writing. And this is a quote: "Political power is necessary, that such power must be insidiously cultivated, and that when necessary, it must be used aggressively and with determination, without embarrassment and without the reluctance which has been characteristic of American business." That's the same shit I'm talking about. It's the same thing I'm saying we can use as a strategy for building businesses that reflect our values, that reflect a global perspective. But we can't do it with outrage, because outrage is energy we could be using for strategy. He talked about the Supreme Court. He really talked about the Supreme Court, making sure we had, that's how you get, they started with a lot of the think tanks and the lobbying. He was saying that they needed to start just bringing cases to the Supreme Court. It didn't matter what they were. But if they were in favor of business and the conservative perspective, just start bringing these cases to the Supreme Court. Stockholders, making sure that stockholders of these businesses had the same, educating stockholders about how we were going to move business, how we were going to move the perspective or have business take over. Here's another quote. There should be not the slightest hesitation to press vigorously in all political arenas for support of the enterprise system, nor should there be reluctance to penalize politically those who oppose it. This so happened, and see, I'm a history buff. This is how we got prohibition. They had prohibition was a wedge issue, and they became that wedge issue became so popular because it was one thing that they can focus on, and it became so popular that the populace did not care what side of your liberal or conservative, Democrat, Republican, Independent. It did not care. They just cared about that one wedge issue. And if you disagree with them on that one wedge issue, no matter what else that you were stood for, they would vote you out. And these are the strategies. So he says the recruitment of the chamber of highly qualified individuals in all suggested areas who have been paid salaries that match business executives. This is a problem. This is why I left inclusion and diversity. We're never going to improve this until we pay people who know how to do this well. And we pay them at salaries that are equal to business executives. This is not a job that a volunteer can do. This is not a job that somebody can do as other duties as assigned on their job. This is work that needs to be full-time focused, and these people need to be paid well, because when people aren't paid well to do this, and he understood this, they wouldn't focus on this. They wouldn't give this their all. They wouldn't be passionate about this. They wouldn't work on this 24/7. So he didn't want money to be an issue for them. He had them reorganize their organizational structure of the chamber. And then couched in the tone of anything less than suggested will have a negative impact on individual freedoms. He knew that they had to go all in, and this is a quote, ideological attack on the system itself. It was an ideological attack on the system itself. It was an intentional, strategic, planned approach. That's how we have the government that we have. And that's how other democracies have the government they have, because they follow our plan. So you can be mad. You can be outraged if that's what your choice is. But my point here is outrage is getting us nowhere. It's getting us nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. We need to be strategic. We need to come at this issue like we would do any other business issue. And so this is when I say, when I'm ready to reach out for sponsors for my show, I don't want to hear, oh, we don't have money. Because what that communicates to me is this stuff is not important to you. You're not all in. And if you're not all in, get the hell out of my way. And that's the bottom line. So, but last thing is that I want to say that I find quite funny is, and you hear this when people been on reality shows for a while, they say they forget that the mics are there. And so what this demonstrates to me is someone, because their natural, who they are comes out. So what he said about these being shithole countries, and let me back up again. They're shithole countries because of the policies mainly that the United States and other industrialized or colonial or countries that colonialized them used. Fuck that, it's not we. The privilege came in, decimated their natural resources, deemed them incapable of taking themselves, flooded their markets with products and services that benefited the privileged economies, and then say that they're too lazy. That's straight bullshit. But let me get back to this. In closing, just understand that, to me, I see this as a huge reality show. I see this as great possibilities. We're in a place now that we've never seen. None of the presidents up until this point gave us the opportunity to implement what I just talked about, implement the Powell memo, because things weren't that bad. It was enough that people could ignore the racism that was in their face. It was enough that people could ignore the discrimination against women, and the fact that we weren't paid well and people were getting sexual harassed, and if they told, they lost their jobs. It was just enough that we could ignore it. We can't ignore it. It's so in your face now, you can't ignore it, and it's the perfect time to be strategic. So I'm telling you, people, hold on. Be encouraged. Be encouraged, because our time is coming. And I say, let's get strategic and knock this shit out the park. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.